Hello, have a great day. Bilodi Shikshan Sanstha's English Primary and High School Bilodi presents Geography Lecture for Standard 9th. Here is the cover page of Geography textbook of Standard 9th. The pictures on this page are the landforms produced by physical processes, that is, exfoliated rocks, beaches, sea caves, and biological weathering because of tree roots at the background. See, in the standard 9th, we have to learn practical geography, physical geography, general geography, and human geography, which we see in this content. And for this, we have to learn 12 lessons throughout the year. Today, we will see the lesson number 3, Exogenetic Processes, part 1. In the lesson number 2, means the last lesson, we have gathered information about endogenetic movements. Endogenetic movements means only the internal movements. We have seen that internal movements depend on the basis of velocity, direction, and the basis of landforms. We will see this in this tree diagram. On the basis of direction, we see the horizontal movements and the upward and downward movements. On the basis of the velocity, we see slow movements and the sudden movements. And on the basis of landforms, we see the continent building movements, mountain building movements, and also the plateau building movements. Now, we have to turn towards the exogenetic processes part 1. This is the lesson number 3 of our syllabus. Exogenetic means the external movements. External movements affects on the earth's surface or near to the surface. Many landforms are formed due to the internal movements. Many processes occurring on the earth's surface also lead to the formation of degradation of landforms continuously. In this lesson, we will be studying the exogenetic, that is in external processes, and the landforms formed by them. External processes occur because of the forces working on the earth's surface. They are mainly solar energy, gravitational force, and kinetic energy associated with the moving objects on the earth's surface. External processes are occurring because of the forces, and these are the natural forces. First one is the solar energy, which we get from the sun at the daytime. Then the gravitational force. Gravitation is the natural phenomenon. The gravitational force is a force attract any two objects having mass. In fact, every object including you is pulling on every other object in the entire universe. This is called Newton's universal law of gravitation. On earth, gravity gives weight to physical objects, and the moon's gravity causes the ocean tides. Third energy is the kinetic energy, and kinetic energy is the energy of motion associated with movements of objects. Any object in motion is using kinetic energy. For example, a person walking, a thrown baseball. Kinetic energy is an object
of an object.
Kinetic energy of an object depends on both its mass and its velocity. These forces are affecting on the external processes. The natural forces which help in leveling of the earth's surface by the process of degradation, transport, and aggregation are called exogenetic agents. In these agents, degradation means wearing down of rock by disintegration. Then the transportation means moving from one place to another, and aggradation means the deposition of material by a river, stream or a current. Aggradation occurs in which the supply of sediments is greater than the amount of material that the system is able to transport. Exogenetic movements. The surface of the earth is changing by the endogenetic and exogenetic forces. The exogenetic movements on the earth's surface gradually try to level the uneven surface of the earth. The agents of weathering and erosion are continuously involved in undoing the changes created by the endogenetic movements of the earth. Means we have seen the changes because of the endogenetic movements. The exogenetic forces are changing landforms where endogenetic forces can't work. Means both the movements are different. Endogenetic, that is doing work in the internal part, and exogenetic, it is the external, means on the external surface or on the earth surface it works. Do you know landforms formed on the earth's surface as a result of internal movements are called primary and secondary landforms? For example, continents, mountains, plateaus, plains, etc. Because of external processes like weathering, erosion, transportation, and deposition, the primary and secondary landforms give way to the tertiary landforms. For example, valleys, sand dunes, delta, U-shaped valleys, etc. See, we have seen some landforms are formed because of the endogenetic movements, means internal movements, in the last lesson. And because of the exogenetic, means external processes, remember, because of the weathering, erosion, transportation and deposition work, some valleys, sand dunes, delta and U-shaped valleys, etc. are formed. See, this is a one tree diagram about the earth's movement, endogenetic and exogenetic. Actually, this diagram contains the detailed terminology which is useful for the MPSC and UPSC level. See, just for the information, or we have to learn in detail. For this, I am showing this diagram. Diastrophism. It is the one type of endogenetic movement. Diastrophism means what? The process of deformation of the earth's crust, which involves folding and faulting. Another type of the endogenetic movement is sudden movements. In that, earthquake and volcanoes, we have seen it. Then in diastrophism, another two types are there, that is epiorogenic and the orogenic. In epiorogenic movements, upward and downward movements are there. And in the orogenic movements, tension and compression, this is happening. Then in the exogenetic movements, there are two factors or two types of movements are there, that is weathering and erosion. In weathering, physical, chemical and the biological weathering, these three types are there. And in the erosion, work of because of the ice, because of the river water, because of sea, wind and because of the underground water, erosion is happening. In this lesson, we will see in detail about the weathering. See, observe these various figures. Observe physical appearance of the rocks in each picture. You can see that rocks are broken, fractured and have holes in them. In a picture, You can also see that the statue has been deformed. Why are the rocks in such a condition? Think about them briefly and tell the reasons you can think of. Because of time period or energy, what do you think? Why is there a change in the rocks? We will get answer of this question from this explanation. Breaking or weakening of rocks is natural phenomenon. It is called weathering. Weathering can be of three types: mechanical, that is physical, chemical, and biological. In arid climates, mechanical weathering is dominant, while in humid climate, chemical weathering is more effective. Biological weathering occurs because of living organisms. See, breaking and weakening of rocks is called as a weathering. And in a dry climate, we see the mechanical weathering. It is the dominant, means main weathering type of the weathering is mechanical. Then in the humid climate, means where the humidity is more, moisture is more, in that area we see the chemical weathering is happening. And because of the living organism, means human beings, animals, plants, biological weathering is happening. Types of weathering process. There are three major groups of weathering processes. However, very rarely does any one of these processes ever operate completely by itself. In reality, the weathering process involves combination of all three types of weathering processes. These processes are chemical weathering process, physical or mechanical weathering process, biological weathering processes. See, these are the three main weathering processes. Yes, and one is not affecting totally. It is means whatever weathering we see, it is the combined effect of the weathering. Means maybe chemical, maybe physical or chemical or physical or biological. Then see the exfoliation. Actually, exfoliation means the removal of dead skin. In this way, on the earth's surface, on the landforms, external layers of rocks get removed due to external processes. Exfoliation is a form of mechanical weathering in which curved plates of rocks are stripped from rock below. You will notice that just as we can remove each and every outer layer of the onion, similarly in nature rocks undergo such a process. The exposed part of the rock heats more while the inner part is comparatively cooler. As a result, the outer layer of the rocks fall apart from the main rocks. This is called exfoliation of the rock. Means which what we I have told you, this exfoliation means the removal of the dead skin, actual meaning. And like this way only it is happening on the rocks. Outer layers are moving or removing from the main rock. It is exfoliation. Exfoliation is the form of mechanical weathering. See, these are the some images of exfoliation, means only the mechanical weathering. Mechanical weathering mainly occurs because of the following reasons: temperature, frost, crystal growth, release of pressure, and water. These factors are responsible for the mechanical weathering. From this, first is the temperature. We will see how it is responsible for the mechanical weathering. Temperature. The minerals in the rocks expand because of heat and contract when temperature decreases. See, means what? When the temperature increases, particles in the substance loosen and the substance gets expanded or size increases. And contradiction to this, when temperature decreases, the object shrinks to the smaller size. Due to such continuous contracting and expanding, tension develops in the rock particles. Each mineral reacts differently to the temperature. Some minerals expand more while others do not expand as much. Consequently, the tension formed in the rocks also increases and decreases. As a result, cracks develop in the rocks and they break. The areas where the diurnal range of the temperature is higher, weathering of this type is common in the hot deserts. See, each object in changes its size according to its own properties. Means because of the temperature, expansion and contraction is there, but it is not equal on each and every object. If we consider two different minerals at a same temperature, it can't, or those can't expand equally. Due to this constant contraction and expansion, tension created between layers of the rocks and cracks develop and the rocks break and shatter into the pieces. Then where the diurnal range of the temperature is higher, means at the daytime where the temperature is more, in that area this means weathering because of the temperature is more, and it happens in the hot deserts because at the daytime temperature is more. Then another responsible factor for the weathering is the frost. What is meant by frost? Frost means a deposit of small white ice crystals formed on the ground or the surfaces when the temperature falls below freezing. Below freezing point means below 0 degree. You know that the volume of the water increases when it freezes. Means what? It needs more space. In areas where the temperature drops below 0 degree Celsius or for quite some time, the water accumulated in the cracks and crevices in the rocks freezes. Its volume increases. This leads to tension in the rocks and they shatter. Means when the temperature drops down up to the 0 degree, means very low temperature, 0 degree temperature, water changes into the ice and ice needs more space than the water. And again when the temperature increases, ice changes into water. Because of this continuous process, tension creates in the rocks and they break. And so it is one of the responsible factor for the weathering. Then the crystal growth is the one of the third factor which is responsible for the mechanical weathering. Crystal growth is the process of making a crystal grow by continuing to remove a component from the solution. See, means whatever solution is there, it is dissolving and afterwards some minerals or some remove of components, some components are removing from that solution. See, crystal growth in rocky coast, waves hit the sea cliff. The water is alkaline. Alkaline water means the water has a slightly higher pH level than the regular drinking water, which contains basic salts. Some water droplets hit the cracks in the rocks. In this alkaline water, the soluble materials in the rock get dissolved. This leads to the formation of small holes in the rocks. This is the effect of solution. Alkaline water gets stored in these holes. Because of heat, this water turns into water vapor and only crystals of alkaline materials remain in the rocks. Crystals occupy more space. This causes tension in the rock. Holes are formed in the rocks. It looks like honeycomb. Means in the picture also we can see honeycomb, like a honeycomb. We see the holes are formed. In this water soluble material which is present in the rocks get dissolved. Means whatever which minerals can dissolve, those are dissolving in the water, and due to this cavities are created. Cavities or space or cracks or holes are created in the rocks which are replaced by the alkaline water, and afterwards again water is coming, and that in those holes the water is there, and water is the alkaline water which is in the holes or cavities gets evaporated due to heat, and alkaline material previously present in the water settles in the holes. Whatever water collects, but afterwards because of the evaporation water changes into vapor, and only the alkaline material remains in the holes. Crystals needs more space than the water. Whatever crystals are forming, those needs more space, and this causes tension in rock and honeycomb like holes formed in the rocks. Then the next point is the release of pressure. It is not that tension is created in the rocks only because of temperature, freezing of water, or crystallization. The outer layers of the rocks exerts pressure on the inner or lower layers. When this pressure ceases to exist, the lower or inner layers get freed from the pressure. This is also leads to weathering. Means what? The weathering is not only happening because of the temperature, crystallization or the frost, but release of pressure means always there is a pressure on the lower layers, but when it releases, that time also weathering is happening. Always upper layers of the rocks exert pressure on the inner layers, and when this pressure comes to an end, the inner layers get released from the pressure, and this leads to the weathering. Then the next point or next factor is the water. Some areas experience more rainfall than the others. In such areas, soaking of rock water also causes weathering of some rocks like sandstone or conglomerate. These are the types of rocks, sandstone and conglomerate. These rocks are formed because of pressure on the agglomeration of sand particles. Mud also makes sand particles come together. When water penetrates such rocks, the particles get loose and separate from the main rock. This is called granular weathering. See, the areas with the high rainfall, the rainwater penetrates in the rocks like a sandstone and the conglomerate. Means water goes in the rocks because of the soft rocks are there, and because of it water penetrates in the rocks. These rocks are the result of collection of sand particles due to the pressure. Means these rocks are not strong rocks, and because of the pressure those rocks are formed. When the water penetrates, the particles in the rocks loosen, and separates from each other. Separates from each other and the main rock, and weathering occurs. So this weathering is called as a granular weathering. And in this type of weathering, we see the particles are look like a green, and so it is called as a granular weathering. Block disintegration. Last point is there, that means sometimes combined effects are there, and because of it also weathering is happening. Sometimes both temperature and water are responsible for weathering. Difference in temperature cause contraction and expansion, widening the joints or the cracks in the rocks. Water accumulates in such wide joints and big blocks of rocks separate from each other. This is called block integration. See, as we know, because of the temperature, contraction and expansion occurs in the rocks and cracks are forming. In these cracks, water gets accumulated, means water goes into those cracks. Due to combined effect of these factors, huge rocks disintegrate into the big blocks, means big particles or big blocks are forming because of this combined effect. This is what we have seen, the factors which are responsible for the mechanical weathering. In this way, we have completed the introduction of the exogenetic processes and mechanical weathering and the reasons for the same. In the next video, we will see the chemical and biological weathering. Thank you.